Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelichars. Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelichars. Thank you so much for being with us yet again. We appreciate your subscribing, your loyalty. We've got new listeners each and every week, and I know that's because we're getting some great guests, some returning guests, and some new guests, but always bringing really good, valuable information to all of us from so many different perspectives, and business leaders from all different walks of life and different industry segments, etc. If you are new to I Got a Guy podcast, I encourage you to check out igotaguypodcast.com for a list of all of our past episodes. I know we have a bunch of them there. And there'll be a synopsis of each one of our episodes so you can kind of see who the guest is and get a little flavor of what the episode is all about and pick and choose which episode you want to listen to. And we have some folks with some side hustle hobbies that have been guests. We have some business powerhouses that have been guests on our show, etc. And it's just very a wide-ranging list of guests. So so check it out when you have a chance. If you want to be a guest on a future episode of I Got a Guy podcast, you can fill out the contact card on that website. Send me your information, your name and business information, and we'll get in contact and see if we can schedule a time to have you on as a guest as well. So we'd love to have new people on all the time and continue to add a lot of value to our listeners. As you know, this show was born out of reading a book called The Go-Giver, which talks all about giving referrals and growing businesses and how important it is for small businesses to be focused on giving referrals. And in that book, there are 5 laws of stratospheric success. And one I want to focus on today that marries up with our guest very well is the law of authenticity. I use this a lot, but because we have some really amazing people on our shows. But it's defined as the most valuable gift you have to give is yourself. The most valuable gift you have to give is yourself. And when you get to speak with listen to our guest here in a couple moments, you'll see how authentic she is and how helpful she is to everyone that she comes in contact with. So let's take a shift here and let's get into our episode here because I don't want to hold off and delay it too much longer. I'm excited to have a returning guest with us, Liz Goodchild from Berkshire Hathaway. She's been a guest on the show a couple times before. She's able to join us today and going to talk about some changes, some legal changes in the real estate field. Really important topic, and it's frankly to the average person, it's very, very confusing. So we're gonna sort through that confusion, and we're gonna get to the bottom of it, so you understand as a home buyer how you can move forward successfully in this. So, Liz, thanks again so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I think that it's a pleasure trying to educate people. And I love the topic of authenticity, because basically that is really the segue of this is the crux of this whole lawsuit. It's all about people being authentic.
Yeah,
That's what it's about. So
yeah, no doubt. So, Liz, you're with Berkshire Hathaway. And I know in the past we've talked about your history and how you got into real estate. We don't need to go through that detail at this point, but let's talk about your team, because your team is special at Berkshire Hathaway. You've got a super strong team, powerhouse team, and so much is because of you and your education. So talk a little bit about that and what makes your team so unique and special, not only to Berkshire Hathaway, but to the people out in that you serve.
So the Goodchild team is the number 1 team in Berkshire Hathaway stock real estate for the last 7 years, and we have received the highest coveted award that Berkshire Hathaway provides, which is the Office of the Chairman Circle Award Diamond, and only about, I'd say, half of 1% of the 50,000 agents in Berkshire Hathaway gets that award. And for the last 7 years, we moved from the Office of the Chairman Circle Award Gold to Platinum, and now we've been a Diamond for the last 5 years. So we've been with Berkshire Hathaway for 7 years since we sold our franchise to them 7 years ago, practically around this time.
Yeah.
So
I remember that.
yes, and what makes it very unique and different is that our business model is very different from most team business models that people have heard of. Typically, people form teams. There's usually like a queen bee on top, or a king bee, I guess, is if you what you want to call it. Somebody that actually just rains down opportunities to their team, and basically everything is actually under that queen bee or king bee's name, and the minions actually do all the the field walking and talking and everything, and but all the credit goes to the queen bee. Well, that is not how the Good Child team is all set up. Everybody is being given their own personal credits. And as far as we're concerned, everybody markets everything just like it's theirs. And the
Mhm.
difference is that what we are truly about, as cliche as it sounds, is that we truly are about what team stands for, and that is together, everyone just achieves more. And I think that the team itself is doing a lot because there's technically 20 minds, there's 40 hands, there's 40 feet. I mean, it's like, you take the 20 agents and you multiply that, and that's exactly what we're achieving, because we are together as a family and getting together as a whole and trying to be one unit that is made up of 20 agents that are doing their best to be their best version of themselves every single day.
Mhm. That's tremendous. And yeah, you've had that team concept for a while. It's exciting because I think you're 100% correct that, rather than being just minions following behind the leader, having them all bring their skills, because everyone has a different set of skills, whether it be, some of your agents, like Carrie is a veteran. And so she has those veteran skills, and you have some older folks, you have some younger folks, and you have such a wide range of people in your team, age range and backgrounds, language, culture. And if you
Yes,
lean on that,
what's so interesting about our team is that every single generation, from the silent generation to the Z generation, is actually represented from our team.
that's
So our oldest one, he's almost in his 80s. He's the silent generation, and then we have a bunch of Gen Zs that are also in their 20s, and so you just need to be 18 years old to get a real estate license and a high school graduate, and you can get into real estate. And so there's a lot of younger people that are actually getting very attracted to the field because of the entry to how to get into real estate.
right.
So however, you really are very could be very alone in this business unless you get under a team. And that's kind of where, one of the secret sauces of being in our team is the fact that um, when you are a solo person in real estate, the average realtor probably does about 6 to 10 transactions every year. Well, you can't learn a lot with 6 to 10 transactions. It's truly all about experiencing as many transactions under your belt. And the secret sauce of being in the team is that you get to learn from all the 20 agents, and you get to learn from 200 transactions that we do, just like it was your own.
Right. Yeah, that's actually powerful, because you're exactly right, especially right now in a challenging market. You can't possibly be skilled enough if you're going alone at it. You have to lean on a team for that expertise, that knowledge, the brainstorming, the creativity, and that's where you learn exponentially.
And you just mentioned Berkshire Hathaway, that's the team. But I tell you, the fact that I sold to Berkshire Hathaway 7 years ago was truly a great move, because
Mhm.
especially in this type of a change in the market, in the industry, I am relying on Berkshire Hathaway to give us the training. And they've every single day we're talking about 2 to 4 hours of training that has been put out there every single day to all 900 agents of the Berkshire Hathaway Stark Real Estate team. And personally, I've actually sat through five of them, and over again, just so that I can really understand just to kind of understand the buyer's agent side. That was a 4-hour training. I did that twice. The listing agent side, that was like a 2-hour training. I did that twice again. And so the resources that Berkshire Hathaway Stark Real Estate puts out there to make sure that we're equipped to really function effectively in this market is key.
Yeah. Yeah, that is huge. So if anybody is listening and they're interested in becoming an agent, obviously, you'd recommend them joining your team, because you can give them those resources to get started and to get their feet on the ground, get some experience.
Yes. So, thank you, Michael. What I always tell people, if they only have like wondered, what a realtor does, the first thing I ask them to do is sat in our Tuesday sales meeting. Okay. And that's every week. And first and third Tuesday, it's in person. And the second and fourth is on Zoom. So I want them to just be a fly in the wall and just kind of see what we do every Tuesday. And a lot of people just come to these meetings just to see. And this is what I promise them: after the meeting, you'd be done with that meeting and walk out the door or stop Zoom and say to yourself, either if they can do that, I can do it too, or those people are crazy. What am I thinking about being a realtor? I don't, I think before you spend the money, the $700 and getting into it, it takes about 75 hours of like coursework to get your license. Call me, just listen in, be a fly in the wall, and kind of see what we do.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. That's a great advice and a great opportunity for somebody to kind of test the waters a little bit and just make sure that it's really what they want, because it is not for everybody. But if you're willing to put forth the effort and you're open-minded enough to be coached, not everybody's coachable. You've probably seen people like that.
Yes, I've been over 300 agents in my 35 years of doing this. So, and I'm down to like my 20 agents in my team right now. So what happened to the 280 agents? Most of them, some of them just decided that real estate is not for them. Some of them decided to like compete with me and actually are very, very successful in real estate now. And I've seen them flourish. And I watch them from afar, and I'm very, very proud that that
Mhm.
they made a lot of for themselves. And some of them are simply very stubborn, that they're just not wanting to be told what to do, and don't want the accountability, and are not coachable,
Yeah, yeah. Well, at least you can flush that out, and you've got the experience through all your years of helping folks. So, to our listeners, if anybody has considered being a realtor, and it's a great field. I love the concept. I love real estate personally as well. I encourage you to check out Liz's team at Berkshire Hathaway, the Goodchild team, and Liz will provide her information here in a few moments, and we'll get you be able to connect with Liz. But Liz, let's transition into, the primary topic for today's discussion is this lawsuit that took place that impacted buyers and how buyers agents are compensated. So if you could back up and kind of paint the picture quickly for us of some of the history, and then how it's unfolded, and then ultimately we want to talk about how you're able to serve home buyers as a buyer's agent, so that's clear. That would be appreciated.
So let me ask you a question. And in that way, you're a typical consumer,
Mhm.
right? And so let's talk history. How did you understand realtors get paid?
So I know in the past, when somebody is selling their home, they would agree to pay a portion of the proceeds to the realtors collectively, and it was somehow split between the buyer's agent, and the seller's agent, and the brokers that manage those agents. It might be 25% across the board or something like that, but it was agreed upon in the seller's contract. Is how I know it was done in the past.
You got it. So indeed, if I went to you, Michael, and you decided to go ahead and list your home, I would come to you. We'll talk about a marketing plan, and in the marketing plan, I would charge you a percentage for my efforts, and we will discuss about how much of that portion would go to the buyer's agent. Okay, so and then we would write that in our contract. Okay, so there's a lot of, like, for me, and these are the things that every time I go into this type of a podcast or a way for me to have a platform to explain it to people, um the myths or the misconceptions are the ones that I really want to make sure that people understand. Number
Mhm.
one, there is no standard commission. If you go to all into the YouTubes, and if you go to all, if you were following this in all sorts of kind of media, the first thing that they say is that we all made 6%. An absolute lie. Okay. Nobody makes one the same percentage. It's obviously a um a negotiable portion, which
Mhm.
is, it could be 1% to 10%, I would say. And like, so there's no such thing as a standard commission. Okay. And there's also no such thing as a 50-50. Okay, so these are the things that, so let's call it 6%, which is what the media has been talking about. People think that each listing agent made 6%, and they go halves with the buyer's agent and they made 3%. So that is the first thing that I would like to make sure that is kind of like uh understood. There was no such thing. And but these lawsuit is about that they're thinking that there is such a thing, and when people are paid the same thing and people don't have a choice, that's called an anti an conspiracy, and that is called that's against the antitrust law,
Mhm.
and because that's price fixing, right? So so the realtors are being sued by the sellers, thinking that we have all conspired to charge the same thing across the board. That's the first, and this has been going on for several years until finally it was convinced that that's what's going on. And what the National Association of Realtors, um, business wise, decided to do is settle, and that big 419 million is out there, not because they admitted guilt, and it's because they are protecting the realtors to make sure that it doesn't get more out of hand,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know. And it's because at this point we can go on and on and on and on and on about things that are people's perception, and at the end of the day, people's perception is what? The reality,
Right.
right? And at the end of the day, the realtor world just has to really figure out how to change that perception.
Right.
And that perception is truly what we've been trying to change since this settlement for $419 million that was sued against the realtors. So what does that perception looks like? So the perception is that the seller doesn't have a choice. Well, they do now have a choice.
Mhm.
Okay. So when we talk to the seller, and we're looking at listing their home, we ask them, hey, seller, my fees, what I'm going to do for you as a listing agent is X. Will you choose to give a buyer's agent, which could be me, okay, as well, is going to be X. You make that decision. And guess what? The seller has a decision to pay zero. Okay. So, Michael, when I come to you and I say I want to list your house, you can tell me, hey, Liz, I think you're worth paying, whatever you're asking for. Let's call it a 3%. But Liz, I don't want to pay the buyer's agent a commission. I want it to be zero. And I'm going to tell you, Michael, okay, that's your choice. But I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you, Michael, is that you know that nobody works for free. And so that you're going to alienate people that can't afford to pay their buyers a commission, and they may choose not to see your home and put an offer in your home because they just don't have the resources to pay their own
Right.
realtor,
Yeah.
right? Especially when a buyer today may be getting FHA, which is the Federal Housing Authority program, which requires them only to get 3.5% down, or maybe they're getting down payment assistance because they don't have a down payment now. Or, as you know, with Kerry Perkins in my team, a Marine Corps veteran who does a lot of VAs, the veterans have a program where they don't need to put any money down. They could get a home with 0% down. Now, with that said, if you choose as a seller not to pay commission to the buyer's agent, okay, then you may alienate a buyer that would want to buy your home but has no money to pay their realtor their commission.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it can be challenging for a first-time home buyer who's, scraping together their initial down payment. And like I said, in an FHA case, if it's 3.5%, then they got to pay an extra 3% to the buyer's agent. Now you got to come up with 6.5%. And that's a struggle. It could be a struggle for a lot of folks.
exactly. So now let's talk about the buyers now. Okay, that you just started so that's the conversation with the seller, right?
Right.
The conversation with the buyers, this number one of the things that they're not going to be able to do these days is see a house with an agent without a buyer's agent agreement. So
Sure.
now I love this fact because I can't tell you how many times, how many homes I've driven people, 100 homes, and find out that they walk into an open house and decided to put an offer on open house after seeing 100 homes with me. Or they actually want you to go show 10 houses because their realtor, which they didn't tell you is on vacation, but they don't mind using you for the time being to go show houses until the realtor comes home from vacation. Okay. You can't do that anymore.
That's good news.
Yes, this is good news for us because it weeds out for us the tire kickers. It
Mhm.
weeds out the people that are not loyal. Okay. You can't see a home today as a buyer without having to have an agreement with a realtor.
Okay.
Now, you can walk into an open house, okay, without your realtor, but then you are going to be asked by the person that's doing the open house if you are represented or that you are aware that you have no representation, and we have a no notice of no agency in the open house. So you can still go to an open house on your own without a realtor, but know that the very skilled realtor that's doing the open house will actually be um, there to be able to give you guidance on how consumer agency works. Okay. Now, there's a lot of things that are, I think that are gonna happen here, especially with realtors that are just not trained to really embrace this new law. So, case in point, I have an example. I have a lender that told me that he got a $1 million buyer. Okay, that was like uh, a referral from a realtor that he was working with, and that realtor happens to be on vacation. Okay, did not sign this buyer's agency compensation form with this particular client, and the particular client went into an open house and fell in love with the open house. It was $1 million home. So the person that's sitting the open house said, if you do want an offer, you saw this house through me, you don't have a buyer's agent representing you, you do have to sign a buyer's agency with me. And she wanted to make an offer, so they made an offer, and guess who the realtor is? The person that's on the open house, and not their realtor that's currently on vacation. So sad to say, and they obviously went back to the lender that pre-approved them from the other realtor in the first place. That's why he knew the story.
Hmm.
But it's a sad story because that realtor on vacation lost over $1 million deal because they did not sign a buyer's agency agreement with their uh with their client.
Yeah. So that's a mistake. Yeah.
That's a mistake. Or there's a lot of unfortunately, there's a lot of, like you said earlier, side giggers who just does real estate on the side. They have a full-time job and they think they can sell a deal or two. It will be a shame for those realtors that are not equipped to understand how this market is going. They run around, show, 25, 30 houses, write 10, 15 offers, and come to the table, to the closing table, and find out they never negotiated their commission, and they end up without a check after
Mm.
closing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing with the buyer's agent is that they really, really need to explain to the buyer why their value proposition, what they're going to do to their buyers to make what they're asking for as a buyer's agency commission
Mhm.
worthwhile.
Yeah. Yeah. So
You
you got to
know,
show your value
you got to show your value.
as the buyer's agent.
Correct. Correct. And I just did a deal this weekend. I showed six condo units on the Trump Tower. I have a client flew in from California this weekend. Yesterday I showed them six homes less than an hour and a half. We put our offer in, and I had a buyer's agency agreement with my client for 3%, and the seller was only willing to pay 2.5. Okay. So I explained this to my client, to my investors, that I work for 3% as a buyer's agent, and they were willing to pay the difference.
The customer's willing to pay a difference, the buyer.
Willing to pay the difference because
Well,
they
and as long as you get that documented up front, at least everyone's on the same page at that point.
correct, correct, correct.
That's interesting. So it seems like this. I mean, when this law was first, or the settlement was first released, and all the hit the news, it seemed catastrophic. But it sounds like it kind of puts all the cards on the table at this point. It sounds like it's actually not a bad thing. It's a change, which is drastically different than what it used to be. But when the dust settles, I think it'll be good for the buyers, and it'll be good for the
It's
buyers' agents and everybody in the cycle.
So first, for the sellers, okay, it's very, very good for the sellers because they have a choice. Okay, meaning that what I'm seeing for the sellers is that they know what the marketing agent is going to do. They can discuss if they're worth whatever they're asking,
Mm,
but they also have a choice to see if the buyer's agent is going to give them the price that they want, and if not, they can choose what to do with the commission of the buyer's agent. So the buyer's agent has to work very hard to sell the seller's agent the listing. And if the seller saw that, then they may be rewarded for more than what that they're asking for, you
mm.
know? So the seller has the choice. Now,
Yeah,
the buyers at the same hand, these buyers agent has to work very hard to earn their commission as well.
sure.
Same thing, the buyers have a choice. Okay, the buyers have a choice to see what kind of representation they're getting from the buyers to make sure that they are going to be represented very, very well. So for instance, I'll give you some example. It's still a multiple offer situation around here. As a listing agent, there's no inventory. So then when a when a house goes into the market, expect to compete. Multiple
Mhm.
offer situation.
Sure, sure.
Now, if you are being represented by a buyer's agent that doesn't know what they're doing, chances are you're not going to get that property. You're not going to get the property. So once again, the buyers now should be able to really address how good is your buyer's agent. you know how are they going to compete during multiple offers? Are they going to be able to like lower their commission just so that you can compete? That's now at stake. If, let's say, you put an offer on the table and your buyer's agent is um asking for 3%, and all your competition is asking for 2.5% or 2% lower than what your buyer's agent is going to ask for, is your buyer's agent willing to give up some of their commission or all of their commission just for you to get the house? what kind of a relationship do you have, or are you willing to pay for it, or are they resourceful enough to find a way that everybody gets paid? Because obviously, people don't work for free. But
Sure.
how good is this buyer's agent in finding the resources for you to get your house,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. It,
So, and then for the realtors, I'm sorry, Michael, for the last, since August 17, when this actually started, I've gotten listings and I've gotten buyers, and I actually got a raise. So this situation had actually been a very good thing for our team, because now we can articulate
yeah.
our worth, and our people are willing to pay us what we're worth,
Well,
and
and
it's higher,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, and that goes back to, what we talked about a little earlier, which, when you have all the right training and the coaching that you do with your team and your team works together and you share ideas and creativity, you become a more skilled buyer's agent, which is a huge benefit to the buyer, especially, well, I guess any buyer, but I can envision a first-time home buyer. They have more questions than they have answers.
Correct.
And so a first-time home buyer goes into a situation like this, not knowing what they should even be asking, but they have a skilled buyer's agent that is knowledgeable and helping them through the process. They will have a better transaction, a more successful transaction, less risk of buyer's remorse, and overall everyone is happy. But that doesn't come for free. So it's an interesting balance there.
So let me give you a very practical example that is kind of like people don't realize the things that we do. So I have a seller who is a C-level seller, meaning executive.
Sure.
He's not a first-time home buyer, so he doesn't like a lot of questions. He's a very, very high-level executive for a very big insurance company.
Mhm.
And so what he told me is, Liz, I'm all about simplicity. Make my life easy, and that's what I want.
Mhm.
Okay. So, and we have a house that we were selling, and he actually doesn't live there. He's, lives somewhere else. And first of all, we got 4 or 5 offers, right away off the bat. Okay. And then when, I put together a spreadsheet, okay, for the 4 or 5 offers, explaining to him each and every single pros and cons of each offer and what I recommend. And I go to all the way to figuring out which agent was seasoned enough and has more transactions, has a good reputation, to be able to take us to the finish line.
Mhm.
My spreadsheet has all these points. I'm not going to like show him all the offers. I sent him all the offers, of course, because that's legal. But at the same time, he's not reading all 4 or 5 of them. I'm highlighting the points.
Right.
Okay. We were there for the inspection. And guess what? During the inspection, there was a couple of dead mice like that was found, and he's not there. Guess who cleans up the dead mice? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the things that do I call him up and say, hey, you got a dead mice, fly from wherever you are and, clean up your dead mice before the inspection? No, the Goodchilds have to clean. Actually, it's David Goodchild had to pick up all the dead mice. You're right. But it's like, I'm saying this as an example because, you know, uh people think, especially like for sale by owners, saying that, oh, I have a lawyer, my attorney will take care of everything from me. Would they really take care of your dead mice? Oh, will they clean up your dead mice? I don't think so. You know what I mean? I
100%.
don't think an attorney will do that. But these are the little details that people don't really think about on the caliber of realtor that you have, that you're hiring, and what are your needs and what do you need in order to take this to the finish line.
Right, right. Yeah, there's so many moving parts to the equation, and especially now when there's a limited inventory, people are jumping, making offers before they're really ready to make an offer. And it may look good on paper, but then they get buyer's remorse, and then it doesn't close. and you've wasted 45 days, 60 days sometimes, and that's frustrating as a seller. So I mean, it's really important to have a good, solid team behind you that, frankly, has had enough experiences to be able to flush out some of the mess.
So on the other side, on a buyer's agent, frankly, sometimes my buyers would win an offer because of my name. And I'm not saying that to brag, but agents know it's either one of my agents that representing this buyer, the Goodchild team is behind this offer. I will take you to the finish line,
Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
means a lot.
Yeah,
So when I'm the listing agent and I see someone that is the highest offer, but I saw that they're really only done 2 or 3 transactions, and they're not in a team, they're not really getting coached. uh do you think would this person manage the transaction, and how sure am I that they're going to like take them to the finish line?
right. Yeah, it'd be difficult. They don't have
And
the connections, they don't have the experience, they don't have the creativity maybe. And they might
and
be
they
fine
don't
people, but they don't necessarily have all that experience.
and they don't know what questions to ask.
Right.
Okay, so for instance, one of the things too that's asked, and these are the things I'm telling you because this is the whole point of this lawsuit, is that truly I am so passionate about the fact that the consumer has no clue whatsoever on what really it takes to buy a house or to sell a house, and what a really good realtor who's worth their commission is doing for that seller or for that buyer. Okay. So for instance, everybody says they're pre-approved. Great. Let me look at that piece of paper. Great. You know what? Not good enough. Right? For me, I interrogate the lender. Is this a, first, how do you know this deal? How do you know this person? Is this an online lead? Is this somebody that you've been working before? Is this a W-2? Is this a 1099? If they're 1099, did you look at their tax returns? Did you look at their assets? Did you confirm this? It's like there's a lot of questions to
Sure.
tell me
Sure.
about, how solid this deal is. And those are the deep, deep questions I ask a seller, a lender, and I don't look at that piece of paper and say, "Oh, great, pre-approved." Anybody can type up a piece of paper to
Right.
on, and just say that you're pre-approved. The questions that I ask gives me an inkling. Did you already underwrite this? Did this goes to what we call desktop underwriting? Because did you put it through the portal? Did you do this? So these are questions that, as a realtor, I ask, and I can guarantee you your lawyer is not going to do that for you.
Mhm. Mhm. So do you see this, let's fast forward 2 years from now. Do you see the real estate landscape changing from a realtor's perspective, changing as this settles in, and it'd be more about the teams and creating more real estate teams so you have more experience and more skills?
So here is just it's not more about teams. I think it's more about the reality. I hope that a new agent realizes to go with a team first before being on their own.
Okay.
And that statistics is already in out there, wherein the chances of you surviving real estate as a newbie is like highly unlikely. And I can't remember right now the percentages. I think it's like 80% chance that you will likely fail in 3 years as a newbie in real estate if you're not in a team.
Okay. Okay. So you
You
need to
know,
get that foundation under you, the
you
skill.
need a foundation, because otherwise, even if you did 6, 10, 12, 20 transactions during your first year, that's not enough.
Mhm, mhm,
I've done over 2,000 transactions. Personally, I average 50 transactions a year that I do by myself.
mhm, mhm.
Okay. Now, that's a lot of transactions. That's the other thing too. I'm a practicing team leader. What
Thank
I walk
you.
what I preach.
Right,
Okay. I put people in my car, I write contracts, I do buyer's consultations. I can't, there's a lot of people too that join teams and with someone that's not in the field anymore,
right.
you know.
Pushing.
Uh
Yeah,
they're gurus and they've done their share, but as you can see, there's so much changes in the field and you need to really feel it before you can
right,
teach it.
right. You got to be
You
there.
know,
As they
gotta
say,
be there.
you got to be there belly to belly to be able to appreciate the impact of the changes on the people you're serving.
Correct. And it's like you can't keep up, as a leader, as a team leader, if you're not practicing.
Right.
You just can't keep up with the changes. Like for instance, as you know, I have a CPA, right? I used to do tax returns for 20 years. And you know him, you love him dear as much as I do. Frank Costabile, my CPA, has been my CPA for 15 years.
Yeah.
Why? Is because, I pay Frank to do my taxes because I can't keep up with the changes.
Right. Even though you're technically certified to do it, you don't because you're not current in that. And that's really smart. But as they say, stay in your lane, right?
Stay in your lane, stay in your lane. And it's like, stay in your lane, but also practice makes it perfect.
Yeah.
So the way you get better and better and better about what you do is because you're doing it every single day.
Yeah. And you also have to be open to fine tuning and tweaking it and adjusting it. When this lawsuit first was settled, there was probably a lot of other, this is an evolution, and you continually
Absolutely.
refine it to the point that now it's well oiled and it's solid and it's take some of the risk out of there for your buyers.
So 2 years, your question about 2 years. Let me just go back to the real estate crash,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So remember the real estate crash,
Yeah.
2007, 2008? That was a mess.
Yeah.
A total mess, right? So what happened after that mess? Well, there's a bureau that just got started. It's called the CFPB. That's a Consumer Fraud Protection Agency, which makes sure that consumers are not getting defrauded by the lending industry with high interest rates, and there's no more such thing as no income no doc loans. I mean, those things happened because of that tragedy, right?
Hmm.
Um, During the pandemic, that's also a mess. What happened to the pandemic? What are the things that, came about after the pandemic? Well, Zoom came about, right? So doing business through Zoom, doing closings through Zoom. So, a lot of these things happen. So now with this August 17 situation in our lawsuit, I am 100% sure that there's gonna be once again all these like good things that are going to happen so that something like this doesn't ever happen again. And I
Yeah.
think that's the that's that's with change in anything. We need to embrace it in order for us to be better than what we were in the past.
Yeah, I totally agree. And this is true in a lot of aspects in life. I mean, it's a ever evolving situation. And if we embrace it and understand it and do our best and then be ready for the next change, because there'll be another change come down the road.
Absolutely. Like
Maybe
I
a
said,
couple
I
years down the
compare it.
road, but who knows it? But if we're continually moving in the right direction, making it uh, more protection for the consumers, just like you mentioned in the what drove the crash in 2007, 2008. Well, we're better now than we were then, and it's an ever evolving world, and we have to be ready, open minded, have an open heart to embrace these changes. And,
Absolutely.
and you and your team do a
Absolutely.
great job at that. And I know a number of your team
Thank you.
members, and you do an awesome job. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I do encourage anybody that is looking to get into real estate, that you have a team that that needs to be considered as the team to take a new agent to a point where they can get comfortable with it. And if somebody's looking to buy a home or sell a home, you want to have the right team behind you. There are a lot of good realtors in the market, but not everybody has all the experiences and all the backing. So as a buyer or a seller, you need to consider that as well.
And I think, Michael, is like buying a home or selling your home. You're talking about the biggest investment transaction of your life. And what I'm about is all about doing a strategy, questions and answer, understanding the process, educate, educate, educate before you pull that trigger.
Yeah.
So invite me to your home, invite me virtually. Let's talk through it. No obligation, just a
Mhm.
chance to kind of set your mind into a situation wherein you got to plan. You need to
Right.
plan.
Right.
So
Yeah, very, very important. Liz, why don't you share your contact information? So if somebody wants to talk to you about either aspect, being a part of your team or buying or selling a home, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and get
I
started?
am so okay with calling me directly on my cell phone. And
Okay.
my cell phone number is 847-691-2976. Again, that's 847-691-2976. And let's just sit down and just kind of, well, if you have a home to sell, let me just give you a laundry list of priorities that you should prioritize to
Hmm.
get your house ready for a sale that could be 6 months, 1 year, 5 years from now, just
Sure.
coming up with a budget. And then same thing with a first time home buyer or just somebody that's either moving up or moving down. Let's figure out how's the market and what you need to do to prepare for this big investment. And let's not forget about investors too,
Right.
right?
Just to bring that up.
Investors,
Yeah.
yes, just like these people flew from from California this weekend just to buy a one bedroom condo in near the Trump Tower because it is a good investment because Chicago, this is a one bedroom condo for $285,000. Um, it's unheard of in California to have
Of
a
course.
high rise, and their rent is just going to cover the mortgage. So why not? So I just think that that's something that we're forgetting as well is how Chicago is still a very, very good place to do an investment.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And we're still in a situation where there's limited availability. There's not a lot of
Correct.
homes in the market.
Correct.
And you expect that's going to continue for some time, right?
Unfortunately, I'd rather it, wanted to kind of like increase, but I think that the lower interest rate is just gonna even make it less because there's gonna be more buyers.
Yeah,
Um, and the builders are not building a lot because the lumber and the cost of prices to build a home is very high. So really it's the seller's market, and I think that will continue to happen. I mean, I think it's the baby boomers are going to sell, and it's they are a big demographic. So I think that's who's going to be selling to either downsize or go to their next phase of journey in life. And then there's a lot of them. So I think when that opens up, I think that's kind of where the resale market is going to open up.
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. It's critical because we're going to have this limited supply for some time to have the right team behind you because
exactly.
it's not a buyer's market and it won't be for some time.
Yes.
And I've noticed something recently that you don't see very many for sale by owners.
Well, we are helping for sell by owners sell their house, and we are actually helping them do that. And so if you are a for sale by owner, we do have a program to help you sell your home. So just go and call me about that. But you know, that's kind of what we do is to help for sale by
Sure.
owners sell their home.
Right.
So
It's just that
um
doesn't seem as common as it once was.
because now they're understanding how complicated it is to actually sell
Yeah,
a home.
especially with multiple offers and all the
Correct.
nuances going to it.
Correct.
Somebody
And
has
that's kind of like, yeah, my what I said earlier, they think that just because they have an attorney, that attorney will do everything for them. And
Right.
unfortunately, they're not cleaning up mice poops. Okay.
Well, and you mentioned earlier about how, some agents may only have, sold 3 or 4 or 6 houses in a year, or 10 houses in a year. They don't have a lot of experience. Well, for sale by owner hasn't sold any houses. This is maybe the
Maybe
first
one or
house they're
two.
selling. And
Yes.
and when you get multiple offers, how would a first time home seller be able to sort that through? It's a recipe for disaster.
And that's what I explained to for sure by owners, is that what is the worth of your time? This is the biggest investment transaction of your life.
Yeah.
You know, what are you risking because you wanted to save
Instead of a few
X
thousand
amount?
dollars.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's
No.
kind of, so that's why I have a feeling that more and more people are embracing that concept, because I don't see too many for sale by owner signs in front lawns. A couple here and there, but it's just not like it used to be 10, 12, 15 years ago. They're before the market crash back in the early 2000s, seemed like there were a lot of for sale by owners, and it's just changed. So that it's just an interesting market, and I've always loved real estate. And I like owning real estate. I like talking about real estate. I like looking at real estate. I like being a landlord. All those things are just awesome. And so I'm proud to know you, Liz. And I want to help you and David grow your team and be successful and continue to serve more
Mhm.
people really, really well.
Thank
And
you.
encourage people to come reaching out to you to be able to get that knowledge, and love to help you see you also grow your team. Are you looking to grow your team beyond 20?
Well, I don't recruit. People come to me.
Okay,
So,
good for you.
yeah, I'm not actively recruiting. I could, yeah, of course, I'm very, very much about growth. But my God just provides, the right people to come to me, and I'm very happy with the way we're growing the way it is. So, but I may start recruiting. So, who knows, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Liz, I really appreciate your time today. I'm thrilled that you're able to share some details and help demystify this change, and there's a pretty significant change in the way buyers are handled when they're buying a home, and making their biggest investment in their life. So thank you for sharing that. Why don't you share your contact information again with our listeners, and you're willing to take calls or texts because you're providing your cell phone number, so call or text
Absolutely.
anytime.
Just call our tax 847-691-2976. That's 847-691-2976. And let's have a conversation.
That's great. Oh, great. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Liz. I appreciate that. To our listeners, I do encourage you to reach out to Liz, call or text her whenever you have a few moments, and you'll get some good information, good, knowledgeable, solid information that you can go to the bank with. So reach out to Liz, and when you do reach out to Liz, make sure you tell her that you heard about it here on I Got a Guy podcast. It's a great way for us to connect the dots, because that's how we grow, and we grow our businesses, and we grow our experiences, and market ourselves. So as we wrap up this show, I do want to thank you, Liz, and but I also want to throw a quick little plug in for from my day job, Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. A little different. It's not real estate, but it's an important business to me. It's how I pay the bills, frankly. This show is a gift to help grow small businesses, and help our guests grow their business. But my day job is precisely tracking, and we work with business owners that own commercial vehicles. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through using GPS tracking technology. There's a lot of benefits to having GPS tracking. If you have a fleet of vehicles, even if it's one or two vehicles, if you have an employee driving that vehicle, you should have GPS tracking in that vehicle, whether it be protecting from theft, or just knowing where your drivers are throughout the day, knowing how they're driving, and helping them be safer. There's a ton of benefits. We'd love to have some conversation with you about that. So if you have GPS tracking today, that's awesome. We would love to talk to you, because you understand the value of GPS tracking, and now it's how do we expand that value and give you more for what you're paying for your GPS tracking. So I encourage you to reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. Our website is precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com, or call us at 847-865-6008, 847-865-6008, and we'll have a conversation, no obligation. Let's just get the conversation started, and we'll see if we can help you from there. So, all right, thanks for letting me plug that. And I encourage all of our subscribers to subscribe and click the notification button for this podcast. Share this on your social media platforms, because this good information that we talked about today that Liz provided is helpful to so many people. So I really encourage you to take this broadcast and share it on your social media platforms. Let everybody hear about it, because it's going to help everyone be a little bit more knowledgeable. So and then I also encourage you to come back again next week, and we'll continue sharing more good information and more awesome guests with you. So I hope you all have a great week. Take care. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye now. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds, and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy podcast.